This is the third of three services based on the writings of Robert Fulghum, the UU minister and author of All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. And this is a reading from that book that talks about people hiding. He writes, "In the early dry dark of an October's Saturday evening, the neighborhood children are playing hide and seek. How long since I played hide and seek? 30 years, maybe more. I remember how I could become part of the game in a moment, if invited. Adults don't play hide and seek, not for fun anyway. Too bad. Did you have a kid in your neighborhood who always hid so good nobody could find him? We did. After a while, we would give up on him and go off, leaving him to rot wherever he was. Sooner or later, he would show up, all mad because we didn't keep looking for him. And we would get mad back because he wasn't playing the game the way it was supposed to be played. There's hiding and there's finding, we'd say. And he'd say it was hide and seek, not hide and give up. And we'd yell about who made the rules and who cared about who anyway, and how we wouldn't play with him anymore if he didn't get it straight and who needed him anyhow. And things like that. Hide and seek and yell. No matter what, though, the next time he would hide too good again. He's probably still hidden somewhere for all I know. As I write this, the neighborhood game goes on, and there is a kid under a pile of leaves in the yard just under my window. He has been there for a long time now, and everybody else is found, and they are about to give up on him over at the base. I considered going out to the base and telling them where he is hiding, and I thought about setting the leaves on fire to drive him out. I have to say, that's pretty harsh. Anyway, but he says, finally, I just yelled, "Get found, kid!" out the window, and scared him so bad he probably wet his pants and started crying and ran home to tell his mother. It's real hard to know how to be helpful sometimes. A man I know found out last year he had terminal cancer. He was a doctor, and he knew about dying, and he didn't want to make his family and friends suffer through that with him. So he kept his secret and died. Everybody said how brave he was to bear his suffering in silence and not tell everybody, and so on and so forth. But privately, his family and friends said how angry they were that he didn't need them, didn't trust their strength, and it hurt that he didn't say goodbye. He hid too well. Getting found would have kept him in the game. Hide and seek, grown-up style. Wanting to hide, needing to be sought. Confused about being found. I don't want anyone to know. What will people think? I don't want to bother anyone. Better than hide and seek, I like the game called Sardines. In Sardines, the person who is it goes and hides, and everybody goes looking for him. When you find him, you get in with him and hide there with him. Pretty soon, everybody is hiding together, all stacked in a small space like puppies in a pile. And pretty soon, somebody giggles and somebody laughs, and everybody gets found. Medieval theologians even described God in hide-and-seek terms, calling him Deus absconditus. But me, I think old God is a sardine player and will be found the same way everybody gets found in sardines, by the sound of laughter of those heaped together at the end. Ollie, ollie, oxen free. The kids out in the street are hollering the cry that says, "Come on in, wherever you are. It's a new game." And so say I. To all those who have hid too good, Get found, kid. Ollie, ollie, oxen free. Wow, that's some good stuff, isn't it? What I like is how he manages to intertwine the simple with the extremely profound. So let's talk about this thing of hiding and not wanting to be found. I mean, it's really not all that uncommon. Like in the story, I think we've all known someone who was terminally ill and chose to keep it a secret. Most, I think, usually share it with immediate family. But sharing with no one at all, well, that seems very unusual. What is it in we human beings that make us want to hide at the exact time when it would probably be in our best interests to reach out for love and support? What is it that makes us hide so good that we can't be found? Now, there is some science out there that might actually shed some light and encourage us that reaching out is actually the correct choice to make. So researchers say that confiding in others instead of hiding our feelings improves our health, our actual physical health. People who are able to confide in others rather than bear their turmoil in silence are less vulnerable to physical illness. And people who are not in the habit of sharing with others or confiding in others, they actually have less effective immune systems. People who are in psychotherapy consult doctors for physical problems less than those who are not in psychotherapy. It really appears that talking about things helps. The beneficial effects are believed to extend to any act of confiding, including religious confession, talking to friends, or even keeping a diary. Writing feelings down appears to have the same positive effect as confiding in an actual person. It helps one process any guilt or trauma that they may be feeling or other kinds of emotional distress. So what about when it comes to confiding secrets? The same thing is true. People who confide their secrets are able to cope better and experience greater well-being than people who do not. By confiding a secret, people feel they are getting social support and then are more able to deal with whatever that secret is. And confiding a secret actually leads to thinking about that secret less than one normally would without confiding it. Now, of course, when we're speaking about confiding in people and sharing secrets, we're not talking about a free-for-all. I mean, as you might know, there is such a thing as oversharing and inappropriate sharing, and it's best to put some thought into who you are confiding in before you do so. And choosing your confidants is important and really interesting when it comes to the research. It was originally thought that people kept their confidences within a small network of close family and friends. But it turns out we are more likely than we think to confide in anybody who happens to be there at any given moment, anyone we run into. I'm sure anyone who's been on an airplane next to a stranger who after you get off the plane, you're like, wow, I know their whole life story. How weird, right? We've all had that experience. There is this thing about confiding in virtual strangers. Now, some say it's because, they're less likely to worry about us like friends and family would, or, the stranger might be in a common situation. You might meet them in the waiting room of the same specialist you're about to see. But often it's just because that random person happens to be there when we feel like talking. Research says we're a lot less self-protective than we think we are because talking makes us feel better. And it doesn't even matter as much who we're talking to, even whether or not the person is a good listener. About half of us out there have most recently discussed an important matter in our lives with a person we would say is not an important person in our lives. Sometimes we actively seek an outsider for an outsider opinion or an expert on a particular topic. But then again, the person who's right there tends to win the game. So sharing confidences is important to our well-being. We just share more widely than we typically think. So let's go back to that idea of hiding and why someone would choose to do that in the first place. Here is what author Michelle Dvela had to say about being in hiding during her youth. She said, "Sometime in high school, I started to disappear. If I think back to the source of my disappearance, it was probably in 6th grade, the year all of my girlfriends ostracized me from sleepovers, parties, and general friendliness. I was resilient. I made some new friends and forgave the old, but I kind of stopped trusting people. And when you don't trust people, you can't be yourself around them. So I decided to disappear. I remember becoming ghost-like. I remember it being a choice, a conscious choice. I decided to slouch in my desk and cover my eyes. I decided to silence my voice when an opinion was provoked. I decided to avoid eye contact. I decided to skip parties, stop making efforts with people who made no efforts with me, and hold my breath until graduation day. And this is what I learned. People let you disappear. I don't think I expected to be saved, but no one crawled into my hole, grabbed my hand, and pulled me out. If you want to disappear, you will. You'll meet someone 5 or 6 times and they will never seem to remember meeting you. You'll walk down the streets and people will bump right into you. You will be looked through and talked over. The world does not carve out a space for the voiceless. They do not roll out a red carpet and invite the invisible to parade through. This is the great lesson of life. You get what you ask for. If you want to disappear, you got it. If you want to be seen and heard, you can have that too. Disappearing is much easier, I have to say. It doesn't take much energy to shut up and fade away. What's much more challenging is acknowledging to yourself that you're worthy of being here and facing the pain that's required of being seen. That's the end quote. And I think that's the crux of it right there. We hide when we don't want to face the pain that's required of being seen. And it might even be the pain of others that we don't want to face, like in the case of the doctor who didn't share that he was terminally ill. Michelle Dvela continues. She says, I was waiting to live, waiting to feel okay in my skin, waiting to find people I could trust and open up, waiting to live the life I wanted for myself. This was a dangerous lesson in my life. We all need to be seen. It's part of what makes us human. When we don't allow ourselves to be seen, we diminish our importance in the world. We undervalue ourselves. We hold ourselves back from greatness. We stifle our contributions, and it just plain doesn't feel good. There is light that vibrates through each of us. When we love ourselves, we are illuminated, and we can't help but be seen. People flock to light. If you're hiding right now, please come out. We're all here waiting to meet you. That's the end quote, and she says that so well. So what is the you perspective on this idea of hiding versus being seen? I believe our call to justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, and the interdependence of and the inherent worth and dignity of every person, that calls us to be open and authentic and to actively engage in the world, but yet to also be compassionate and understanding to those who might be hiding. All our LGBTQ siblings out there, especially those of a certain age, can take us to school on the human toll of hiding and the freedom and joy of being able to live openly and authentically. But no one but the individual gets to determine the pace of that process of coming out of hiding. And as the title of the sermon says, what is all of this about God being a sardine player? You know, I think playing sardines is a good Unitarian Universalist approach with someone who might be in hiding. Let's hide together. Make it a group effort with solidarity and companionship. Perhaps we can all be found together as well. And those are the exact places where God is, where people are supportive and united, and no one, absolutely no one, has to go it alone. So today, I'd like you to think about the ways in your own life you might be hiding. Ask yourself why. What are you afraid of? Or is there anything you might be hiding from yourself that is keeping you from leading a better and more authentic life? Or is there someone you know, someone who you suspect is hiding, who might benefit from a good game of sardines? So hiding isn't as lonely anymore, and neither is getting found. When we come out of hiding and when we confide in others, when we share our humanity with others, we lead healthier, fuller, wholer lives on so many levels. So in closing, I'd like to say that may we all have the courage to risk the vulnerability it takes to share our authentic selves and shine our light onto the world. Amen and blessed be. So now it's time for the offering, because even though we are a virtual church, our bills are in fact not virtual at all and still need to be paid. Thanks for everyone who is keeping up with monthly contributions. Now is a great time, if you need to sit down and write a check to prepare to mail, or to follow the instructions on the screen to make an online gift. Our offering now will be given and gratefully received. So now I will extinguish our chalice with these words from Martha Kirby Capo. Our time together is finished, but our work is not yet done. May our spirits be renewed and our purpose resolved as we meet the challenges of the week to come. The chalice flame is extinguished until once again ignited by the strength of our community. So please stay logged in if you would like to join in for our virtual coffee time chat, or join us this afternoon at 12:30 for Children's Religious Exploration, 1 p.m. for Yoga Sutras, or 2 p.m. for teens. And don't forget to log in for next Sunday's service at 11. That will feature annual reports from me and from our president, George Clower, followed by our spring congregational meeting. Please plan to join in and participate in our democratic process. Our closing music is another familiar tune, This Little Light of Mine, but it's a very, very cool version as performed by Bruce Springsteen and a bunch of guest musicians in Dublin. I think you'll enjoy it. So my friends, today, go in peace and go with the vulnerability and courage to be found, to be seen, to not be invisible, and to let your little light shine. Amen and blessed be.